Ciao a tutti! Welcome to the Giro d'Italia 2023 preview. The race that has often been referred to as the big Remco Evenepoel versus Primoz Roglic clash, but there's more than that, of course. Starting from Saturday 6 May, we'll be racing through Italy with 22 teams or 176 riders. In this episode, Eve and I will discuss every single team for 5 minutes maximum. Vai!
I've got the spores, the sickness. There's the twins in my brain.
Hi Eve. The first Grand Tour of the season is right around the corner. Is the hype already there for you?
Well, since Liège, the hype really started to build up. In the Belgian media, there are a lot of talks already about Evenepoel, Roglic, and the others as well. So I'm really looking forward to that the first Grand Tour of this season will start.
Alright, let's get started. We'll have 5 minutes of discussion for each team. That's the maximum amount of time you'll get from me. Are you ready to do this?
I think so, I hope, at least.
Good. Then we'll start with Soudal-QuickStep. For every team, I'll announce the 8 riders, but of course, some teams still have their provisional start list, so there might be minor changes before the Giro really starts. Soudal-QuickStep goes to Italy with Remco Evenepoel, Davide Ballerini, Mattia Cattaneo, Josef Czerny, Jan Hirt, Fausto Masnada, Ilan van Wilder, and Louis Vervaeke. So, yeah, I don't think there's much discussion about the fact that Remco Evenepoel is the absolute leader of the team.
Yeah, of course, he's their main man. He's there to win the Giro. And in my opinion, his team is strong to help him towards that victory. They are mostly just Evenepoel and Domestiques. No one else will really go for their own glory. Maybe Ballerini, when there is some freedom in his sprint, but there aren't a lot of sprints within.
Exactly, and do you think he'll get the freedom?
He might get, if Evenepoel gets in the last 3K safely, and Ballerini still has the chance to go for it, he might.
Is it risky to battle for the win in bunch sprints?
It's
if
risky.
Things goes wrong.
It's risky for Ballerini, but I don't think it's risky for the win chances of Evenepoel. In my opinion,
but you don't want to lose a Domestique early in the race.
But I think Evenepoel is the main target, and if Ballerini has a chance in some sort of stage, he will go for it. But it's not priority for Soudal-QuickStep.
As I said in the introduction, the race is hyped as the Evenepoel against Roglic clash. How is Evenepoel able to win this Giro?
That's quite difficult in my opinion. Evenepoel is one of the best at the moment, maybe the best. He's a generational talent. But Primoz Roglic is out. He wants revenge after some bad luck last couple of years in the Tour de France with some crashes. And now he's ready for more. He can battle against the world champion, so he will be hyped as well. And he's ready. We saw that in Basque country, Catalonia, where he was able to beat the world champion. It was close, but it's difficult for Evenepoel to drop Roglic, in my opinion. And everybody says Evenepoel is the better time trialist, but we can't forget Primoz is the Olympic champion, and he can time trial as well. It's not because he had a couple of years ago that unfortunate time trial on Planche de Belleville that he will not strike in stage 20 in this year's Giro.
Do you think Evenepoel really needs to take some time in those time trials compared to Roglic?
It should bring him in a better position to fight. The first time trial is on the first day, so if he can take a couple of seconds there, then Roglic already has to do something. There are bonification seconds, but it's always more nice to be a couple of seconds in front after the first stage than behind, because if Roglic can ride defensively like he did in Catalonia, he just stick to the wheel, and then it's going to be very difficult for Evenepoel to get away, I think.
So the biggest strength of Roglic is basically the fact that he's able to take all those bonification seconds because he has a very powerful final kilometer.
Yeah, we saw Evenepoel worked a lot on his final punch as well. He is fast at the line, but I rate Roglic maybe a little bit higher in the last 150 meters.
The fact that QuickStep wants to avoid that GC leaders might go for those bonifications, does that open up some opportunities for the breakaways?
It surely does, but it will depend as well how the first week will go, who will be the Maglia Rossa at the end of the first week, how the situation between Evenepoel and Roglic, how will it be at that point? Because Jumbo knows as well that the Roglic can beat Evenepoel at the line, so bonification seconds can be important. But of course, when you look at stage 20, that grueling time trial, it's, yeah.
Do you think the team of Remco Evenepoel is strong enough to survive those 3 weeks?
We saw in Liège, I know it's a one-day classic, but that the team is more than ready. Louis Vervaeke and Ilan Valverde, for example, were already in an exceptional form in that last classic of the season, of the spring season. And the others, Chedney, was he the guy who won a time trial last week?
In Romandie?
That was quite unexpected, in my opinion. I didn't expect him to take that win. So the team is ready, yeah.
To be clear, the team of Soudal-QuickStep hasn't been announced yet when recording this episode, but I think most of the names should be good.
It will not change a lot.
All right, first one done. Let's move over to AG2R Citroen team and their lineup. Andrea Vendrame, Michael Cherel, Alex Baudin, Paul Lapeyra, Aurélien Paré-Peintre, Valentin Paré-Peintre, Nicolas Prodom, and Larry Warbase. And their team has been confirmed already. So, we have some different profiles in the team. But I think we can agree on the fact that this isn't the strongest team to go to Giro d'Italia.
It's a weird team to bring to a Grand Tour. It's a lot of breakaway guys. If they win a stage, it will be in a breakaway. They cannot win a bunch sprint. They cannot win in a GC fight. They cannot really win a tough mountain stage. So it will be like the stages that we always have as a Grand Tour, where a big group gets away, gets 6-7 minutes to the bunch, and then they battle it out for the win. And then their best shot is, in my opinion, Vendrame, who showed some good legs in Tour of the Alps.
Mm-hmm. He was in the breakaway there as well.
He was in the breakaway. He finished 10th in the last stage there. So that was a good preparation race for him. And he showed he's ready. Otherwise, besides Vendrame...
And he's a former Giro d'Italia stage winner.
And he's a former Giro d'Italia winner, yeah. And otherwise, I think for me, it's a complicated team. There are a lot of French names within the team that we all know, but aren't known to win a lot of races. We have the Paré-Peintre brothers, Aurélien and Valentin, who should be able to write some good results, because Aurélien was 18th in Liège, and if you can finish 18th in Liège, you surely have quite some good legs. But it's difficult, and it's straight. O'Connor is going to the Tour, if I recall correctly.
Should be going there, yes.
So, and they don't have really other options to bring.
What is the big goal of this team? Is that stage hunting?
In my opinion, yeah. I
Maybe
think
KOM jersey?
even KOM jersey might be difficult. It will depend on how the peloton will decide how it will end stages. Otherwise, it can be Evenepoel or Roglic who take away the mountain jersey as well. Or a very good climber who's like 11th or 12th and doesn't quite reach in the top 10 and would just says, I'm going to go for the polka dot jersey in the last week.
Aurélien Paré-Peintre has been 15th in Tour de France 2021 in GC, 16th in Giro d'Italia 2020. Does that suit the profile for you to go for that KOM jersey, or do you think he's not strong enough? to compete for it 3 weeks, because that's what you have to do.
3 weeks is very long, but when you make a target of the KOM jersey, the first week isn't really that important. Surely this third week in the Giro is extremely hard, a lot of climbs with a first category or even or category. So if you peak towards the third week and just make a target of it, then you can still be able to grab that KOM jersey. Of course, if the team wants exposure and wants to get on that Giro d'Italia podium from day 2, then they already have to go in the break and go on that small, or the third stage, and go on that small hills to take 1 or 2 points and get on that podium.
So to conclude, AG2R Citroen team should hope on Vendrame for the sprint stages, medium mountain stages, and Aurélien Paré-Peintre for the bigger mountains.
Yeah, but we can say it's a rather disappointing lineup for the AG2R team. Surely after all the money Citroen has put in the team, I think they would have liked a stronger team at the
After a
start
disappointing classic season
as well. It's
although the fact that Godon won...
Godon, but yeah, I think Citroen will not be happy with that win on its alone.
Alright, sad way to end the AG2R Citroen 5 minutes. Let's move over to Alpecin-Deceuninck. Their team hasn't been totally confirmed yet, but on the provisional start list is the name of Stefano Oldani, Nicola Conchi, Caden Groves, Alexander Krieger, Senna Leijzen, Oscar Riesebeek, Christian Sbaragli, and Ramon Sinkeldam. So there's one name that really pops in the eye here, that's Caden Groves. You already mentioned the fact that there are many sprint stages. I think sprint opportunities maybe 3, 4 maximum.
No, a lot.
And they bring kind of a strong lead-out train as well with Sinkeldam.
Yeah.
Riesebeek, what's your opinion on this team?
Groves is a climber who can survive a bit more difficult stage than a Cavendish, for example. We're going to talk about later in this podcast. So he can survive a bit of hills and hard pacing. But like you say, there are not a lot of chances, even the medium mountain stages or the stages we're doubting if they are too difficult for sprinters or not. But it's a strong team and I like Groves. He's good within the Alpecin team. He recently won, if I recall correctly, he won the Volta Limburg Classic. That's a hard race as well. And
in this field of sprinters, there should be some opportunities for him, I think.
But yeah, surely he showed in Catalonia as well with 2 stage wins. He's ready, and Catalonia isn't really flat. Isn't a flat stage race neither. So he can grab a win from one of the bunch sprints, and then Sinkeldam will be his most loyal domestique in that part of the team. He will be his lead-out man.
Someone who won last year as well was Stefano Oldani. Was very active in last year's Giro d'Italia, but this year he doesn't seem to be on a roll yet.
No, not yet, but if I recall correctly, before the Giro last year, it was a bit of the same story. He didn't really show himself at the front of many races, but then together with Van der Poel last year, they were very active. The whole Alpecin squad was very active last year. And yeah, it's in Italy. He's Italian, so he will be motivated. And you never know. It's 3 weeks, so even if you don't have the legs in week 1,
but the preparation wasn't that good. I think his last race dates from the start of April. It's Julia Basque country where he didn't finish stage 4. So it's hard to predict which Oldani will see, I think. But yeah, if he can do the same as last year, do you think he could be there for another stage win?
I think he can battle for a stage win for sure. He will be maybe once or twice in the breakaway that fights for the win. And then besides having good legs, it's a bit of a lottery as well. You can't jump on every attempt. You need to counter on the right moment or follow the right move. And that's quite difficult. He already showed last year that he's able to, win a stage race in a Grand Tour. So he knows when he should attack or when he should counter. But of course, when you don't have the legs, it will not work out.
I marked one other name when talking about Alpecin-Deceuninck. That's the name of Nicolas Conchi. You're kind of an Alpecin-Deceuninck expert. You know the team. Can you explain who he is?
Well, Conchi was part of the Gazprom-Rusvelo debacle when the war in Russia-Ukraine started. Mm-hmm. Then the UCI decided to take away the license of the Russian team. And then Alpecin-Deceuninck, the development team, took him in as a sort of last resort to give him the chance to prove himself in the pro peloton. And from this season, 2023, he promoted to the first team. He showed some very good performances. He's very good, in my opinion. But this year...
In which stages should we expect him?
In the medium mountain stages. He's more of a guy who can climb quite well, but not the hors category climbs, so not the brutal monster climbs. But he's able to survive a lot, and it will be from a breakaway.
Does he have a sprint to finish things off if necessary, or?
He's not slow, but he's not fast neither. It's like, for example, last year, his last race, the Veneto Classic, he finished third behind Hirschi and Formolo, and in front of his teammate Oldani, Trentin, Vacek, and so on. So last year, at the end of last year, was very good. So now he has a little bit of trouble. He finished 9th in the Figuera Champions Classic, the first race of the season for him. But after that, the races in Spain were a little bit mediocre. I don't know if he became ill or something. I have no clue. But he has the talent to do something, but it will be difficult, of course.
So, Alpecin-Deceuninck, names to keep in mind. Gross for sprint stages. And maybe Oldani Conchi for a surprising breakaway win. The next three teams we'll discuss have been confirmed already. First one on the list is Astana Qazaqstan team. With the number 1, Mark Cavendish. He is joined by Samuele Battistella, Joe Dombrowski, Gianni Moscon, Vadim Pronsky, Luis Leon Sanchez, Christian Scaroni, and Simone Velasco. First problem, Mark Cavendish, the sprinter without a lead-out train.
I'm gonna be honest, this team is good and is maybe one of the best teams Astana can bring to a Grand Tour. But like you say, the only problem is Cavendish, and he doesn't have a train. He doesn't even have a lead-out man. Hey, Moscon maybe. But otherwise, Scaroni, Velasco, Battistella, I like those riders. They are, stagehanders. They will not go for a...
They're strong stagehanders.
Yeah, it's a strong team. Luis Leon.
We've seen Dombrowski taking the win in Tour of the Alps, if I recall correctly.
No, he was in the break and he got caught in the last 3 or 4 kilometers.
But he was close and he showed some good form. Yeah. So it's a name that we'll definitely see in this Giro d'Italia without having bad luck.
Same for Velasco, who rode a very strong Liège.
Exactly.
Was in the break for a long time, was
the rider who survived the longest from the breakaway.
Was able to follow Tratnik when he made his move, and then still finished 19th. So he didn't really fade after he was caught.
Form is good for him as well. Then we have Battistella. A good Battistella is someone we'd always see, but the question is, how good is he?
Purely looking at the results this year, he isn't good. He did not finish Ruta del Sol, he did not finish Tirreno Adriatico, and he did not start Liège. Why? I have no clue.
I often have the feeling with Battistella that he's a rider that is very active during the race, but when coming close to the line, it ends most of the time.
Yeah, it's a difficult guy to read, because if you take him to the finish, he has quite a kick on him at the line, so he can sprint. But positioning has been a problem sometimes, And now in normal sprints, it will be about Cavendish. So maybe Battistella can be the leader of Cavendish. Didn't think of that about that yet. But Cavendish does not suit in the team that Astana selected. Like, you have Cavendish, who needs to train, who needs to be at the front and can come out the last 150 meters out of a wheel, and he's almost unbeatable. We saw it last year when he was in the wheel of Markov. Not a lot of guys or sprinters are beating him. But now you have 8 stagehanders and Cavendish.
Yes, 7 stagehanders.
7 stations.
We've posted a meme on our Twitter account about Cavendish not having the lead-out train he's used to have. And Joshua Korn was one of the guys who reacted. He's an Astana fanboy, knows the team very well. He said he thinks it's a marketing trick from Astana to bring Cavendish to the Giro without a real goal. And his real goal would then be Tour of France, where he would have the lead-out train he should have.
Yeah, we all know Tour de France is the main target of Cavendish, to take that one last stage win to get him that record.
But that comment, it suggests that after 1 week, Cavendish could be out of the race already.
Yeah, it's difficult. For me, it's sad to see a champion like Cavendish. He has proven so much in his career what he's capable of. He is fast. He's extremely fast. Even last year, when everybody doubted him, he was able to surprise everyone. So at least give him 1 or 2 guys as a support for him, because now it's him on his own and the first rest day is gone.
To conclude the Astana part, small prediction. Is Cavendish going to take a stage win?
No.
I don't think so either. Team number 5 is a Bahrein Victorious, confirmed as well. Damiano Caruso, Santiago Buitrago, Jack Haig, Gino Meder, Andrea Pascalon, Jonathan Milan, Jascha Soeterlin, and Edoardo Zambanini. A lot of GC guys in this team, with Caruso, Haig, and Meder. Do you think it's possible to go for GC with 3 riders at once?
No, but
it's fun to play with.
There is a lot of misfortune that can happen the first week. Crashes, illness. We saw the last couple of days that COVID seems to be back in the peloton. So having 3 leaders might be nice to have. If you have one and he crashes, he becomes ill.
So you think after, for instance, 1 week of racing, we'll be left with 2 of the 3?
Yeah, probably, because there are a lot of time trial kilometers in there as well. And I don't really see it. Neither of the 3 are really good time trialists. But the one who can limit the damages the most can go for a top 5 in GC.
And before the race starts, who do you think will be the strongest of the 3 at the end?
There is a lot of hype and fuzz about Gino Meder, that his talent hasn't really come out of him yet due to some bad luck, etc. But you can never underestimate Damiano Caruso.
He was 3rd in Romandie.
He's now 35 years old. He has a lot of experience. He already rode a very good Giro d'Italia a couple of years ago, where he finished 2nd.
I think it was 2 years ago, if I recall correctly.
He proves he's in a good form. He finished 3rd in Romandie and 10th in the Giro de Sicilian. So he will be there, and he can...
He's 35 years old, so he definitely has the experience needed to go for GC. But the others have the results as well, like Jack Haig. The guy was 3rd in Tour of the Alps. Gino Meder, and I think he was very strong at Paris-Nice. Exactly, 5th place there, in a pretty strong field, against Pogacar, Gaudu, Vingegaard and Simon Yates were the guys in front of it. So yeah, it's difficult to predict how Bahrain will play with those guys. And adding to that, a stage hunter like Santiago Buitrago was excellent in Liège-Bastogne-Liège.
He even can be protected as well the first weeks.
Well, that's the problem. Don't you think Buitrago will be the super domestique in the mountains?
He finished 3rd in Liège and 8th in the general classification and Tour of the Alps as well.
So do you think the team will make the combination of stage win hunting and going for GC? That's extremely difficult.
It is difficult, but this year's Giro, it is all about Jumbo against Soudal-QuickStep. So other teams don't need to control the bunch at all, or don't need to work, certainly not the first 2 weeks. So they can just sit in the bunch and see, my legs are good, my legs aren't good. And if he can go for it, go for it. If he is brought back and someone else can go, they can. Yeah, I don't want that they use Buitrago as a domestique too soon, because he's very young and he's maybe in the shape of his life as well, finishing 3rd in Liège.
Is this a team that could go for the team's classification?
Yes. If they don't have a lot of bad luck, they can make a target of it in the 3rd week.
Is this a team that could go for the KOM jersey?
Yes. But that will depend a lot on how will their leaders do it. Like, will there be an echelon and will they lose minutes? Will there be a badly timed puncture and will they lose minutes? That opens up freedom for the guy. Like, imagine Hayek having bad luck and chasing 7 to 8 minutes in the general classification. He will go in the break multiple times in the 3rd week, and he can make a target of that KOM jersey.
What do we expect of Jonathan Milan?
It's
his first Grand Tour at the age of 22.
Once again, a lot of hype about the guy. He proves he can sprint good. He's very strong. He has a very energetic style on his bike.
He's a beast.
Yeah, he's 194 of height and 84 kilos. It's difficult. Like, he started the season strong in the Saudi Tour. Of course, it's not the strongest field. And then in Kuurne he finished 12th. But after that, his results were a little bit mediocre. Did not finish a couple of races. He was hyped a lot in Milano-Sanremo, but he got dropped massively and finished 128 in the bunch. He can surprise me. That's all I want to say.
I've got some news. There's a change in the team of Soudal-QuickStep. Masnada won't be in Giro due to saddle sores.
That's the same as Tom Dumoulin had? Didn't he have trouble with his saddle?
I don't know, but that's kind of a big loss for the team.
And who's replacing him?
I don't know.
But yeah, that's quite... Masnada didn't really show very good form yet this season, if I recall correctly. He did not start stage 5 as well in the Romandie. But he's a guy who can play an important role in the mountain train of...
So the lineup: Ballerini, Cataneo, Czerny, Evenepoel, Hirt, Seri, Van Wilder.
So Seri is taking
Vervaken.
Seri is taking the place of Masnada.
Yeah.
Well,
still strong team.
Still strong team. Doesn't change a lot, I think.
No.
It's... A mountain domestique is changed for another mountain domestique.
Yeah, exactly. And to finish, Bahrein Victorious. Little prediction as well. At the end of May, who will be their best placed rider in GC?
I'm gonna say Jack Hayek then.
That was my pick as well. Alright. Bora Hansgrohe, confirmed as well. Alexander Vlasov, Giovanni Alleotti, Cesare Benedetti, Nico Dens, Bob Jungels, Lennart Kemna, Patrick Conrad en Anton Palzer.
Why are you saying Bob Jungels in such a nice way?
I was waiting for this moment to say it. Bob is back.
Yes, Bob Jungels. He's back in business, back in the Grand Tour. But it's all about Vlasov within that team and some...
Do you think?
Why not? Vlasov.
I think we haven't seen the strongest Alexander Vlasov this season. And I think there is a chance he could crack during those 3 weeks.
There is a chance he could crack, but he's probably their leader for the team and he will be protected certainly the first 2 weeks. But there will be some freedom for a rider or 2 riders every stage. I think when there is a chance, like a Conrad, a Kemna, a Jungels, they will get their chances. So it's not the team that's just going full support mode for Vlasov.
Conrad is a guy, he really has the legs. Ended 4th in the stage of Tour of the Alps, 8th in Liège, Bastogne-Liège, 2nd in Eschborn-Frankfurt. So if he could get some freedom, he might get close. Yeah, of course, Kemna, we all know the guy. He's the breakaway specialist. Won multiple stages in Grand Tours. Bob Jungels won last year's stage at Tour de France. So yeah, if the guys get freedom, they will be very active, I think.
Yeah, but Vlasov did not start stage 5 Tour of the Alps and then went to Liège.
That's not the perfect preparation, isn't it?
But I think he did not. He left Tour of the Alps to start.
Yeah, because they had a lot of riders that were sick at Liège. So yeah, he needed to replace one of them.
Yeah, it's a nice team, to be honest. I like that team. Benedetti, Conrad, Aliotti, Dance rode a good time trial as well a couple of weeks ago, where he almost surprised, took a surprise win. And then Kemna
wasn't even a couple of weeks ago. It was last week at Tour de Romandie, where he ended up 4th in that prologue.
Yeah.
Do you think Vlasov is one of the main candidates for place 3 or for a podium if one of the big guys fails?
He's one of them for sure, but Vlasov goes up and down a little bit. He can be very strong.
So you don't have the same doubts I have at this point?
I have doubts, but he needs to prove himself within the Bora team as well. Hindley is prioritized to ride Tour de France after he won last year's Giro. So Vlasov wants to prove himself. He's able to take a Grand Tour as well. And if he wants to do something within that team and be able to go for the Tour de France next year or the season after that, he needs to show Bora that he's capable to fight for the win or for the 3rd spot in the Giro.
Exactly. Team number 7 is Cofidis, a team that hasn't been officially confirmed. But the names are Simone Consoni, François Bidard, Davide Cimolai, Victor Lafay, Jonathan Lastra, Pierre-Luc Périchon, Rémi, is it Rocha, and Hugo Tumir.
A typical Cofidis team. They
average.
Yeah, and to the Giro they always bring Consoni and Cimolai. That's always...
I remember you were hyped, I think it was last year or the year before, about Davide Cimolai. You had him in one of prediction team.
It's like when they're both at the start, you never know who will be their sprinter. If they are both there in the last K, will they sprint both? Will one sprint? Will the other sprint? And sometimes it just decides in the pre-stage interview, that we're going for Simone today, we're going for Davide today. They don't even know sometimes.
But looking at the team now, Consoni is their best shot, isn't he?
Yeah, Cofidis worked very hard yesterday for the Eschborn-Frankfurt Classic to bring the group back, but he finished 19th in that sprint. So that shows he has a lot of confidence, but when it matters, he isn't really there. It's a difficult team. Like we said earlier, they run a lot of chance for sprinters, and they're bringing Consoni and Tremolai. Both pure sprinters, can't really survive a lot.
Even when thinking about a stage win, I find it hard to predict who's their best shot.
Well,
It should be Lafay.
if we need to believe Dieter or data analyst, Lafay is a huge talent, but he's trained wrong.
Yeah, the guy was going to destroy Pogacar on Mur de Huy, and we should have believed Dieter.
But I believe it's a promising young guy, and I also believe he's not really trained the right way, or he can be trained better.
Yeah.
French teams are known to be not the most professional teams within the pro peloton, but to win in Grand Tour stages,
He knows what it takes. He won 2 years ago at Giro.
but it's difficult, very difficult. Like,
Tirreno Adriatico this year, 7th place in stage 4. So he'll definitely try. But the question is he good enough to do so? And besides Lafay, is there anyone else you think that could get close?
we will see.
Or will this be a team that shows itself in a breakaway and see where it ends?
I think a Périchon, a Tumir, a Rocha maybe, and a Lastra will get in that break and just promote Cofidis.
See where the story ends.
Yeah.
All right. Next team is AF Education Easy Post, and as always, they'll probably be one of the last teams to present their squad. So they have a long list right now. On there, Alberto Bettiol, Jefferson Cepeda, Rigoberto Urán, Jonathan Caicedo, Hugh Carty, Stefan de Bot, Ott Christian Eiking, Ben Healy, Merhawi Kudus, and Magnus Kort. So these are 10 names. 2 names will need to be dropped. But I think, which names are certain to go there? Hugh Carty,
Urán, and if I call correctly, Healy as well.
Healy as well. I think Merhawi Kudus will be there too.
Kort as well.
So Hugh Carty, GC leader. With maybe the support of Rigoberto Urán and even Jefferson Cepeda, who ended up 4th in Tour of the Alps, I think.
Good. But he's always good in Tour of the Alps. Can't forget that.
Yeah, Carty is one of my names that might surprise us for a podium. What do you think?
Carty. Carty is...
It's Carty.
He's having a good season. He's proven he's more constant in his performances than he has been the last couple of years. His biggest problem is the amount of kilometers against the clock in this Giro. Of course, stage 20 is a mountain time trial, so that's more in his favor. But it's so difficult.
For instance, at Tirreno Adriatico this year, the opening time trial was in and around Lido di Camaiore, 11 kilometers. He ended up there in 29th place. But I get your point. He's a guy who could lose time, definitely on the Roglic Evenepoel.
Like in that time trial, he lost 1 minute and 7 on the stage winner, Filippo Ganna, and who demolished the opposition. He was 30 seconds in front of the second. But
what time did you lose on Roglic there?
When we look at the GC men, I see McNulty ending on 34 seconds of Ganna, so he lost there 33 seconds. Arensman of 39 seconds of Ganna, so it's around the 30 seconds mark. And when we look at Roglic, he finished on 49 seconds of Ganna, so that's 18 seconds that Carty lost.
On Roglic, that wasn't even that strong.
Roglic, that wasn't even that strong at that point. And
he was active at Tour of the Alps. He showed himself, he attacked.
He cannot beat an Evenepoel and a Roglic. And then we need to look at who will compete for that last podium spot.
In your opinion, Vlasov?
Vlasov is one of them, but he's not the only one. Jack Haig isn't a really good time trialist as well.
Ineos guys?
We have to talk about that Ineos guys as well. in my opinion, one of those Ineos guys will take that third spot, but gonna talk about that later. But he should go for a top 5 at least in this Giro, and hopefully he doesn't crash.
It should be within reach.
Yeah, in my opinion, he should. He was really good in Tour of the Alps. He's ready. He knows he's ready. Now, let's prove himself.
Then the big surprise of these spring classics. Ben Healy.
Ben.
Our young wolf of last year.
Yeah.
Man, the guy has grown.
He looks 50 years old on his bike. But he had an exceptional spring season. My only doubt is, how does his peak look like? Did he peak for those spring classics, or?
I can't imagine that those spring classics weren't a peak in his form. And
if it isn't the peak, we're in for something big in this Giro.
Yeah, but if it was, we should expect him in the first part of Giro d'Italia. Yeah, I can't imagine the guy will still be fresh as hell in week 3.
Or he's taking a dip in his fitness peak right now to
go back to it on week 3.
In the 3. I don't know.
It's interesting.
It's his first Grand Tour. It's interesting for sure. He will be in some sort of breakaway in those 3 weeks. And then if he has the legs he had the last couple of weeks, he's able to go for...
The team showed that they can give a lot of freedom to breakaway riders. They did that in Tour of the Alps with your guy Steinhauser, who's not even on this long list.
That's a pity. I said to you before we recorded it, Steinhauser should go. He showed some good legs once again in the Ashburton Classic yesterday, where he was in that front group who battles for the win. But yeah, it's a strong team. Whoever they are bringing, I like AF, to be honest. It's a bit of an enigma with the late announcement of the squads, and then the outfit will change again as well. If I wrote that, if I saw that correctly, a couple of days ago.
Yeah, that would be surprising.
And yeah, they're not bringing Carapaz to the Giro, and that might be a good thing for the guys starting there, because everybody will get their freedom, and Carty isn't really a guy we need a lot of domestiques to be up there.
Good. Next on the list, a confirmed team of EOLO-Kometa, the team of your all-time legend Alberto Contador. The 8 names: Vincenzo Albanese, Davide and Mattia Bais, Eric Vetter, Lorenzo Fortunato, Francesco Gavazzi, Mirko Maestri, and Diego Pablo Sevilla.
A good team,
in my opinion. Will definitely show themselves once again in breakaways, but there might be more, I think. Albanese has some strong legs. Fortunato for the mountain stages. I hope the guy is not targeting GC.
Yeah, I hope.
I like him more as a breakaway rider.
Please, if you listen to this, Lorenzo, do not go for 11th spot in GC, but go for that stage win and maybe the KOM jersey. Thank you. But in my opinion, Albanese is their best shot on a stage win. He
can survive some mountains.
He can survive mountains, and he's fast at the line. So he can win a reduced bunch sprint. He started his season very late due to a crash on training, if I recall correctly. But starting his season very strongly, the 11th of April with the first stage in Giro di Sicilia. Second, then the stage after that, once again second. The third stage 5th, and then the last stage 3rd. We have to be honest, that field wasn't the strongest, but don't underestimate that, because in the final stage, it was a tough one with 4,000 meters of climbing, where he finished 3rd behind Lutsenko and Meintjes. So that shows he can climb, and he has a kick. So I quite like that guy, and we should...
The history confirms it. He's done Giro d'Italia 3 times. In 2017, that's already a long time ago, 6 years. I think he was 20 years old back at the time. He didn't finish that Giro, but his best stage result was 19th. And then he did it 2 times later on, 2021 and 2022, with the best stage results being an 8th place in 2021 and a 3rd place last year. So that shows he can get close, and when he gets there, he might hit bullseye.
We will see him a lot in the top 10 of stage results when there is a reduced bunch going for it, and he's in there. And he will be in there because he has wood climbing legs. He's ready, and how nice would it be to see another EOLO win after the Fortunato win on Zoncolan 2 years ago or 3 years ago. Maybe Contador will do another crazy challenge where there is another stage win of his team.
I gotta be honest, I'm afraid Fortunato will target GC. You can't blame the guy. He's been 5th in GC Tour of the Alps. He won Vuelta a Asturias Julio Alvarez Mendo in Spain last weekend. The form is there, and you have to admit, for a team like EOLO-Kometa, a GC top 10 is big, I think.
He will go for that general classification, but if he drops a couple of minutes on some sort of stage and he's in 13th or in 14th at that time in the classification, he needs to drop that ambition and go for a stage win. We saw last year's Tour de France, if I recall correctly, you had the 12th or the 13th in the general classification, gets in the break, and the break goes to the line.
You're talking about one of your other favorites.
St. Paulus, indeed. He can still get in the top 10, but...
Fortunato was 16th in GC 2 years ago, 15th last year. He has everything to do better now. I think top 10 is within reach. But it depends on what he wants.
If he can get in the top 10, it will be lovely for the team.
As you say, you can be 12th in GC when week 3 starts, and you can play for top 10 from the breakaway as well. So you could do a little Guillaume Martin, for instance. For the others in the team, I think it will be a story of get into the breakaway, show yourselves, and
it's a wildcard team, so
from there.
This will be the team that we will see 18 times in the break.
Another wildcard team that we'll see a lot, probably. Green Project-Bardiani CSF-Faizanè. What a name. 8 riders as well. Filippo Fiorelli, Luca Covili, Davide Gaburo, Felipe Magli, Martin Marcellusi, Alex Tolio, Alessandro Tonelli, and Samuele Zoccarato. Those are some names.
A lot of names that we know because they were in the breakaway. But when we dive a little bit deeper into their stats, for example, Fiorelli, he finished 17th in Frankfurt yesterday on the 1st of May. 14th, the 16th of April in some sort of 1.1 race in Italy, won by Jonathan Restrepo. The damn Jonathan Restrepo, that's a long time ago. I saw that name pop up on my screen. He's riding for stream.
They have 2 big shots, I think, for stage wins, Fiorelli and Covili.
Yep.
The rest of the team might need some luck, but you never know. Covili is a guy for the high mountains, I think, while Fiorelli may be more suited for medium mountain stages, with the kind of a punch, a kicker at the end.
In my opinion, you can maybe compare Fiorelli a bit with Albanese. A guy who can win a reduced, or who can perform good in a reduced bunch sprint, and who can get in the break in some sort of medium mountain stage, and if he's lucky, sprint for a good result. And Covili is indeed more of the climber type, who proved in Tour of the Alps that he's quite good as well, finishing 6th in that Queen stage.
I have to admit, I've seen worse wildcard teams lining up for Giro d'Italia than Bardiani and EOLO-Kometa now.
Yeah, they are bringing good, strong teams, and
like often you would be surprised when, in the past you would have been surprised when a wildcard team took a stage win. Now it's different, I have the feeling. It wouldn't be such a big surprise.
So if I recall correctly, it's
Depending on who wins, of course.
it's Israel who gets a wild card, the Green Project team, EOLO, and then Koratek.
Yeah.
That are we can say Koratek is maybe the weakest.
Koratek is the team that you used to see in the past from a wildcard team, I
Yeah.
think.
And now those teams are on a certain level that they can,
Of course, there have been exceptions in the past as well.
but that teams can bring something extra to the racing. We will see in those 3 weeks, and it will not be some sort of stage where just two guys get up the front and then
You know,
score.
it's not only about being in the breakaway, there might be more now.
Yeah, they can they can fight for the top 5 in a stage, and some teams in the past weren't able to do that.
Exactly. Moving on. Groupama FDJ, a confirmed team, with the famous Thibaut Pinot, Bruno Armirail, Stefan Kung, Fabian Lienhart, Rudy Mollard, Jake Stewart, Ruben Thompson, and Lars van den Berg. It might be it is the last dance of Thibaut Pinot this year. The guy is on a roll. A stage win is within reach.
He's not going for a stage win, in my opinion.
You think he's going for GC? What would you like to see from Thibaut Pinot? Maybe I see that Tour de France is on his program as well. So if he should go for GC, I think he'd better go for GC now and stage hunting at the Tour. Italy suits him.
Italy suits him, but Thibaut Pinot is cringe. It will be his last Tour de France in his career. I don't know. He should go for TC in the Giro and go for stage wins in the Tour. Completely agree with that, because the field in the Tour will be even stronger than it is in this year's Giro.
And the pressure is there once again as a Frenchman.
In this year's Giro, you can get on that final podium spot. There was only Evenepoel and Roglic who are a little bit above the others. But then when we're going to the Tour, you have a Pogacar, a Vingegaard, but then the second line after those two is a little bit stronger in the Tour than it is in the Giro. So
He showed his climbing legs are there. Tour de Romandie, he ended 5th in GC and 2nd in the Tion 2000 climbing stage,
yes,
where
but
Adam Yates took the win.
in that Tour de Romandie, we witnessed his weakness as well, and he lost all his time in the time trial. He finished 80th in the prologue. The prologue was only 6.82 kilometers long, and he finished 27 seconds behind the eventual winner, Czerny. On 6 kilometers, that's a lot. And with the amount of... He might be one of the weaker time trialists.
There was a second time trial as well, with some more altitude meters. He ended up there 18th place. That was 21 seconds behind Adam Yates, who won GC later on. It was 18 kilometers, but adding 18 with 6 gets 24. But at this Giro d'Italia, there's more than 70 kilometers against the clock. And you can see here that a climbing time trial isn't better for him either.
Yeah, it's better for him than a
There's still some damage.
But there is damage, and where can Pinot take that time loss back? He proved he was very strong in that final stage on the Tion climb, where he almost got Yates as well. But it's difficult. I like Thibaut Pinot a lot. He had a lot of bad luck in his career, and I really hope that he gets what he wants and what he deserves in his final year. But for me, it's difficult to know what his plan will be and how he will ride this Giro.
Are there other opportunities at the team?
Well, when you have Stefan Kung in the team, for example, there is always an opportunity. He likes to attack. He will be in a breakaway, but it's always so difficult to win for him.
Exactly, he needs to go solo.
Armirai can surprise in a time trial even when he has some good legs, but his season is very mediocre as well.
I'm looking at Rudy Mollard, for instance. Medium mountain stage, a little more maybe.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't expect a lot from Groupama besides speed.
Yeah, of course you don't have a guy like Kemna, for instance, in the team. They need some luck.
They maybe can go for a top 10 in a stage with Jake Stewart. He can climb a bit and sprint as well. I'm not...
All right, Yves, we're halfway there. I think we've been recording for 1 hour already.
We are sitting on 55 minutes and 15 hours.
Everything is set to break the Domestique Cycling Podcast episode record.
I'm gonna take a drink.
You're going
Water?
to take a drink. Yeah, you can say that. Moving on. A confirmed team of Ineos Grenadiers. Tao Gegenhardt, Damon Arensman, Laurens de Plus, Filippo Ganna, Salvatore Puccio, Pavel Sivakov, Ben Swift, and Geraint Thomas. We've talked about the Trident and Bahrein Victorious. We have a triple leadership as well here. Or it's different for you?
We have 2.5.
2.5. Who is the half?
I'm gonna be harsh, and maybe after we saw Arensman the last couple of days, weeks, he's not on that form yet. We know he's a diesel, so it's quite difficult for him to get rolling into the stage race. But he'll be very strong in week 3. I want to write it down on here. And
Do you see him as a super domestique? Or is there a chance it might be more?
Gegenhardt deserves to be team leader within Ineos together with Geraint Thomas. Arensman will be protected, and he will be the last one who needs to work for those two. So a lot will depend how racing will go in those first stages. But Hart is even riding on a higher level than he was when he won that Giro d'Italia.
We have to say something about that.
Oh.
This morning I listened to the podcast Weits en Vlaming, a podcast of the Belgian newspaper Het Laatste Nieuws, if I recall correctly. Michel Weits, the famous Belgian cycling commentator, he said, Hart, he won Giro 3 years ago, but it was a small one, he said.
I think we saw enough proof that the performances in that year were a lot better than the normal, or that the cycling watcher thinks. We saw the data, the power output.
This is a moment where we could use our data analyst Dieter. He says that looking at the watts, the power numbers, that Giro was phenomenal, despite the fact that the big favorites didn't win.
Yes. People say that Giro was weaker than others because there were names at the top of the classification that weren't really well known yet at that point. It was a Hindley, it was a Hart, a Kelderman together with Dennis, who rode very strong. If I recall, or wasn't that year, I have no clue. But he is in a very good form, Hart. We saw it in Tour of the Alps. He's
done 4 stage races already this season. He ended up 3rd in Volta a la Comunidad Valenciana, 6th in GC at Ruta del Sol with a phenomenal Tadej Pogacar, 3rd at Tirreno Adriatico
behind Roglic and Almeida.
And he won Tour of the Alps, a stage race that he controlled decently.
Yeah, we have to say Ineos came to that team with a very strong, to that race with a very strong squad, but he's still
similar to the squad they're lining up here. It was a final test before going to Italy.
And we saw at Tour of the Alps that Geraint was working towards that Giro d'Italia. He was domestiquing, he was training hard, getting turns at the front.
We have to mention Dieter once again here. He says Geraint Thomas is the master of peaking.
He's the master of peaking, but how far will his peak go?
That's the big question.
He's strong, but he's getting older. And you have a heart who's 28 years old, who wants to prove that Giro d'Italia win wasn't lucky because the favorites were out.
So you're saying Tao Gegenhardt is their big man?
He's my man for...
He's your man, right? They have some strong riders in support as well, with Laurens de Plus, who was strong, Tour of the Alps.
Yeah, very strong.
Pavel Sivakov, super domestic. We've been talking about that for a couple of years now, that Sivakov never had the chance to prove himself as a GC rider. Of course, we don't know if he wants to have a shot at it, but as a domestic, he's a blessing.
Yeah, he works hard, he can climb good. She's in a good form as well. Finished 14th in Liège as well.
And then there's still Philippe Bogana,
who can destroy the whole field if he wants to when he gets at the front. I don't know how good his climbing legs will be in this year's Giro. We saw he can climb it as well when he wants to. 2 or 3 years ago, he was very strong in a couple of mountain stages. But his main target will be those time trials and then
working for the team. So to conclude, Tao Gegenhardt is going hard.
Tao Gegenhardt is going hard and takes the final podium spot.
Oh damn, that's
in this year's Giro.
Team 13, Intermarché Circus Wanty. Kind of a long list there as well. I see 9 names. Nicolo Bonifacio, Rein Tarane, Lorenzo Rota, Sven-Erik Byström, Rune Gergots, Laurens Huys, Arne Marit, Simone Petilli and Laurens Rex. First name, you've been talking about that a few weeks ago as well. Laurens Huys. You said in a certain stage race that the guy is able to take stages from the breakaway. He didn't get the freedom at the time. Do you think this will be his time to shine?
He will show himself those coming 3 weeks, but he's not the biggest chance for the Intermarché team to take a good result. There are stronger guys in there who can grab a very good result from a breakaway. A Tarame, a Rota, a Petilli. Those guys are more experienced in breakaway riding and stage handling than Huys. Huys is 24 years old. It's his 2nd year in the World Tour. He rode for Bingo Wallonie-Bruxelles before that. It's his first Grand Tour, so it will be a learning opportunity for him, and we will see him once in the break or a couple of times in an attempt for the break. But
I think this team is all about freedom.
Yeah.
There's no real GC rider. Most of them are attacking riders going for breakaways. And then you may have Bonifacio with some fast legs if he gets in the squad, but they might end up with nothing as well.
Yeah, the team knows it's not the strongest team and it will be hard to take something home from this year's Giro, but nothing needs to happen and a lot can happen. They have the riders who have proven to be quite successful in breaks, and the Lorenzo Rota, he is always on a more than decent level, finishing 5th yesterday in Eschborn as well. He was up there.
He might be their best shot.
He might bear the... Yeah, indeed. He's riding strongly, but once again, it's also difficult to win. He won 2 wins in his career. and it was in the Saskot Tour in Czech Republic. Beating Oscar Only there.
Yeah, to be continued, I think.
We continued.
Not a lot to say about that team. Moving on to Israel Premier Tech. The team has been confirmed already. And he's back, Domenico Pozzovivo. He's joined by Sebastian Berwick, Simon Clark, Marco Frigo, Derek Guy, Matthew Riccitello, Stephen Williams, and Mats Wurz-Schmidt. A few years ago, you received a nickname, Ivo Pozzovivo. Is he able to get into that GC top 10 once again? Domenico.
Good old Domenico, 40 years old. Only the 6th of March, he signed for Israel. So the whole winter he trained on his own. He finished 6th in the general classification of the Coppi-Bartali.
Yeah, but we have to say, the riders in front of him there were Mauro Schmidt, James Shaw, Ben Healy, Mark Padun, and Leo Hayter. And with all respect to those riders, but those aren't the riders that would end up in top 10 in GC at Giro d'Italia.
That's true. But it was like he signed for the team the 6th of March, and that stage race started the 21st of March. So really, he only was 2 weeks in that team. And then he only rode Tour of the Alps, where it was quite mediocre as well. He finished 12th in the second stage, where Hart won. He wasn't in that front group. He was in the second group, so the first chasing group, with the likes of Aurélien Paré-Peintre, Kemna, Vlasov. He will be decent, but Pozzovivo is known as the guy who sits in and tries to hold on as long as possible, except last year or the year before that, where we saw Pozzovivo attacking.
Yeah, and he was pretty bad in descents as well.
Yeah, but
imagine you being Pozzovivo. In a few days, you start once again at Giro d'Italia. What would be your target?
top 10.
GC?
He misses explosivity for stage wins. He's getting a little bit older. I know Valverde was old as well, and he was explosive. But Pozzovivo isn't the guy who can attack and establish a 10-15 meter gap and lets the other doubt to chase. He's more the guy who holds on to the badge and fights as long as possible to stay in that group. But I'm more interested in their young guys.
Yeah. I really want to talk about one name. Since Tour of the Alps, I'm a big fanboy.
A big fan
of Matthew Riccitello.
I like the name.
I like the name. Who doesn't want a name like that? He ended up 16th in the general classification of Tour of the Alps, and in one of the final stages, he tried to attack Max Poel's white jersey. He ended up 3rd eventually in the youth classification. Johannes Koolsit was the rider in between of them. But the way he was climbing, and he showed some balls on the uphill, he tried to attack. If he gets freedom, you never know. It's his first Grand Tour, of course. He's only 21 years old. On a 3-week base, it might be difficult, but if he picks his days, he might be there.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to see him perform. And he can only surprise us and the cycling world about what he's able to do. But I would like to mention one more thing. We laughed a lot about Israel Premier Tech being the retirement home of the pro peloton, but now they are bringing quite a young team to the Giro with, like you said, the one and only Matthew, but also Marco Frigo is very young as well. Sebastian Berwick is only 23 as well. So quite some young guys in there who can show themselves. There's not a lot of pressure on them, but who can perform quite strongly. And then besides them, we have more the experienced guys like Pozzovivo.
And it's good to know they'll get the freedom they want to. So the team won't expect them to perform for 3 weeks. They can pick stages and see where the ship is.
I'm gonna be a bit rude as well. It's good for them that Froome isn't within that team. It's not like they should domestique for Froome, sadly.
Yeah, but even with Froome, like in 1.5 months, we'll have the preview of Tour de France. Will we expect half of the team to domestique for Froome?
No, they will not domestique for Froome, but there are more spotlights on the team and negative spotlights. Like, people will laugh a bit more with the Israel Premier Tech team. It's quite sad because Froome, it's sad for him that he's need to ride on this level at this point in his career after that severe crash. But it puts some negative spotlights on the team, and now Israel in this year Giro can work with the youths and just go for it and see where the ship ends.
Exactly. Team number 15 is the team of one of the top favorites. Jumbo-Visma is going to Giro d'Italia with Primoz Roglic as the big leader. He's joined by Edoardo Affini, Koen Bouwman, Tobias Vos, Robert Geesink, Michel Hesman, Sepp Kuss and Jan Tratnik. Looking at this team, is this team stronger than Soudal-QuickStep's team? Is it stronger? Is it more experienced in riding Grand Tours?
It's more experienced in Grand Tours. And
is it stronger on the uphill?
Because Soudal-QuickStep does not have a Sepp Kuss. Because, in my opinion, Kuss is a very strong rider to have as a domestique.
Question is, does Remco Evenepoel need a rider like Sepp Kuss? We all know Remco likes to attack with a big amount of kilometers to go.
He can do that in this year's Giro.
Is that going to destroy himself?
The team of Jumbo is too strong to attempt a long-range attack.
So
Remco.
You think if Remco attacks, that the Jumbo-Visma squad will control his attack? They'll pace him back.
Because the team is very...
That's not possible. We've seen how Remco can attack.
But it's 3 weeks. You can't compare that with the one.
So imagine there are stages with ending on a mountaintop finish, of course, with a big mountain in front of that. So you think Remco won't attack on the penultimate climb of the day? So
it will depend on the race situation. That
he will never wait. He'll never always wait for the final climb.
He probably won't wait, but there is a chance it will be suicide for him. If he's caught, this is his problem. And Remco remains a human. He's very strong. But we always see teams...
It's one of his strengths.
But it will not be Jumbo alone who chases. It's the strange thing about cycling, but there is always another team.
Yeah, in week 3, you always have the fight for positions in top 10 as well.
There are always teams who want to show themselves as well and work together with Jumbo to bring an Evenepoel back. I think it's...
So now you think teams will cooperate with Jumbo? In the classics, you said that teams don't like to cooperate with Jumbo.
Within the classic squad. Now it's something else. And in my opinion, I think this Giro will be a bit the same as Catalonia. Where
man against man.
Yeah, and Remco didn't attempt a long range, or he tried on it.
He tried, but Roglic didn't want to take turns.
Yeah, and that's...
So you expect when Roglic has the pink jersey, he won't take turns,
Roglic will never...
Do you think... Yeah, I'm certain there will be a moment within those 3 weeks Remco will be extremely frustrated.
Yeah, he will... we all know that. We know Remco.
It's easy to fire him up.
But that might be his weaknesses as well, because Roglic is a very cool guy who doesn't show really a lot of emotions, who just stops his power meter at the finish, who doesn't even celebrate. But he said he was very happy, but just we didn't see it on the finished pictures.
He was happy. He's an expert in hiding it.
Yeah, but it's so difficult. Roglic knows that he only has to follow one guy, and it's Evenepoel. And Roglic has...
But the same goes for Remco as well.
Yeah, but
I think
Roglic has that...
Remco will have a big problem if he doesn't take some time in those time trials.
Yeah, Remco needs to be in front of the general classification.
He needs a Roglic
From
willing
stage
to
one.
cooperate if necessary.
I think Roglic will never cooperate, I think.
Because we all know when Remco gets frustrated, he might do some stupid things.
Yeah,
But he's also extremely dangerous when he's frustrated.
Yeah, but we also, even if Roglic doesn't cooperate, Evenepoel keeps on going. So Roglic says, all right, I'm sitting here on the ramp.
He won't do that here, I think.
It's
His team is smart enough, I hope. If not, I need to get in a team car as soon as possible.
I volunteer as well to give my man a cola when he's riding.
Besides Roglic, it's a pretty strong team, of course. Jan Tratnik showed the form is excellent in Liège. He attacked. He did a decent solo there. Sepp Kuss, you said it already, the super domestique in the mountain train. Michel Hesman is a very promising all-round rider. I think it's his first Grand Tour.
It's his first Grand Tour, yes.
Yeah, don't underestimate the guy. Robert Geesink, who has been very unfortunate during his career, but he's once again recovered and ready to go. And then the world champion individual time trial, Tobias Vos. Tell me, what's your opinion on Tobias Vos? I think it's very hard to say something about it.
Vos became world champion in the individual time trial last year in Australia.
Is he a grey mouse for you in the peloton? He kind of not invisible, but
Jumbo brought him to Tour de Romandie last week to prove himself that he's able to go for a win in a 1-week race. And he didn't perform good. He did not start the fourth stage. But his time trial wasn't good neither. Finishing 8th. Being world champion on a course that should suit him even better. A little bit of climbing together with a big gear and get some speed. I don't know. He didn't sign a contract yet for last year because he wants to earn more money and Jumbo doesn't want to give it to him. He's just hiding behind the fact he has the rainbow jersey. But he needs to prove more than that. He needs to show his worth, protection within that team, and worth more than being a domestic.
all right.
But
Unless you want to add something about Jumbo-Visma, we can move over to the next team.
it's, if I recall correctly, in Tour de Romandie we had some COVID cases, and then
Within the team, Tosh van der Zande and...
before stage 5, if I recall correctly, Vos and Geesink did not start, and the communication about the team was quite vague once again, due to some respiratory issues or something. But they are never saying what it exactly
Is that a synonym for COVID or...
But it's straight. I know there are other illnesses than COVID, but Jumbo is always so vague about those things, and they are now selected within the team, and it's confirmed, so it's not COVID, I hope, or we will see Fabio Quartararo winning the Giro. But yeah, Charlie Quartararo.
All right, before we move over to Movistar team, we need to shake hands. Congratulations, Yves.
For what? Do we shake hands?
Congratulations. You've written some Domestique podcast history. At this point, we're in the longest episode of the podcast history.
Hopefully some people are still listening to this podcast after 1 hour and 20 minutes. But if so, thank you. Subscribe. Thumbs up.
And maybe this is the moment to let us know who you think will be the eventual winner of Giro d'Italia. So we need 2 names in the comments for those watching on YouTube. The winner and who will take spot number 3 on the podium. So we'll talk again in a month. Team number 16, Movistar, has been confirmed as well. On their list, Fernando Gaviria, Will Barta, Max Canter, José Joaquín Rojas, Ainer Augusto Rubio, Oscar Rodriguez, Albert Torres, and Carlos Verona. No GC rider. We have a sprinter in here with Fernando Gaviria, who won a stage at Romandie, I think. Yep. And yeah, the master of experience, José Joaquín Rojas.
I love this Movistar team. I love them.
This is a miracle.
Sorry for everyone who doesn't agree, but this team is just breeds freedom. They have a couple of riders who are able to win stages.
Yeah,
They have
name dropping.
Oscar Rodriguez, Carlos Verona, Rubio. Those guys have proven in a stage race.
I think Rubio was the guy who won a stage at UAE Tour.
Yeah, but if I recall correctly, there was a break in Tour of the Alps where there were 3 or 4 Movistar guys.
Yeah, they did that 2 days in a row, I think.
2 days in a row. That was just
And
the-
Torres was one of them, I think.
That was
Rodriguez
just
was there as well.
preparation for the Giro d'Italia. Oscar Rodriguez finished 6th there in stage 4. Being in that break, and Mühlberger was able to win that. This Movistar played that numeric advantage out very well in that stage. But it's one of the first times in a Grand Tour that Movistar doesn't bring a GC leader. They were always the kings in bringing 11 leaders to a 9-team or an 8-team squad. And just they all go out of a Grand Tour with a fight. And now it's just freedom and go for it.
Do you think Gaviria is the strongest sprinter lining up for this Grand Tour?
Yes. But
So that's a stage win confirmed for Movistar?
he isn't a pure sprinter anymore. I don't know. He likes to surprise in a sprint. Like 2 days ago, he started a sprint with 450 meters to go. And it's not the first time he surprises the others with a long-range sprint. It doesn't work out a lot of times. But it's quite nice to see.
And besides that, he isn't afraid of going into the breakaway in medium mountain stages as well. I remember one stage where he was in the breakaway and then crashed out of it. Don't know where it was, but yeah, he's an interesting rider. That's for sure.
He's good within that team.
And with Canter, they have an excellent lead out as well.
Yeah, but Canter needs to start sprint at 1K to go, and then Gaviria can go at 500 meters.
Team number 17 is Team Arkea Samsic, a team that hasn't been confirmed yet, so that might change, and I expect it to change. Don't you think? The names are Warren Barguil, Maxime Bouet, David Dekker, Thibaut Gernalec, Michel Ries, Alan Riou, Clément Rousseau, and Alessandro Verre. Wasn't Barguil sick?
I have no clue, but it's not.
Or has he been sick?
He has been sick, but I don't know if he will be able.
He didn't start Liège, and wasn't that because of COVID?
I just see 5 days ago Eurosport mentioned an article saying the participation of Warren Barguil is uncertain after a positive COVID test. I don't know what they are writing more about it, when he should be ready. He tested positive after Liège, indeed, like you said.
But I think we can agree you're not getting warmer looking at this team.
No.
Yeah, I know you like David Dekker.
It's not because he was in my fantasy team in the spring.
He always is.
He wasn't. When he was at Jumbo-Visma, he wasn't in my team.
Why would that be?
I don't answer on that question.
But without Wawa, they might have a problem, I think.
Yeah. This might be one of the worst teams.
Without Barguil, this is just an average wildcard team, I think.
Alessandro Veri is only 21 years old. He's young. He can show something. But I think they will go home with nothing. And sorry, but I can't fill 5 minutes talking about Team Marquis or something.
All right, they will go home with nothing. That's it then. Yeah, I don't think you will be able to fill 5 minutes with Team Koratek either.
Brother Viviani is in that team. Oh.
So we have Valerio Conti, Nicolas Dalla Valle, Stefano Gandin, Alessandro Iacchi, Alexander Konishev, Charlie Quarterman, German Nicolas Tivani, and Attilio Viviani. Yeah, I think this will be a team that not a lot of people will know very well. So it's your time to shine. You already mentioned before the episode Quarterman. What's special about him?
What's special about him? I know he rode in a world tour within the track team, but he didn't get a new contract there. He was teamless for the 2022 season, so he rode on club level for Philipp Wagner cycling team. But then now Team Koratek took him in their squad. It's a new team. They were linked with Quintana a little bit as well this winter, but their boss mentioned there wasn't a lot of money, so that was deal too. Their best results.
They have riders with World Tour experience. That might be something.
They have riders with World Tour experience, and they have a Viviani in the team. It might be the wrong one, but it's a Viviani. Their best results this season is the second place in Giro delle Città Metropolitana di Reggio Calabria. A very long name, but it's a 0.1 race, so it's not that bad. German Nicolas Tivani finished second behind Verstreppel there, and in front of Maestri and Engelhardt and so on. But
I think this will once again be a story of getting into breakaways and
show themselves,
see where it goes.
prove they are worth the wild card. And
Is Conti their best shot?
I don't know. I don't think any one of those guys has a shot on something, but they can go for the Combativity Award at the end.
Combativity Award, that exists as well.
That exists as well.
Alright, so they will go home with more than Team Arkea something then, according to Yves. Team 19 has been confirmed. That's Team DSM with Andreas Leknesund, Jonas Wiedeberg, Niklas Merkel, Marius Meyerhofer, Florian Stork, Martijn Tusveld, Alberto Dainese, and Harm van Hoeken. This is a team that was struck by COVID as well in Romandie, I think. They had some problems there, so let's hope it won't have affected them too hard. Biggest name here, Leknesund.
Only 23 years old. Rode a decent Tirreno, finishing 8th in that opening time trial, and finishing 18th in the trial classification. Then the stage race in the Basque Country, finished 26th. Best result there was stage 5, 19th. It's
Stage Hunter, pure son.
stage hunter per song, yeah. Otherwise, Alberto Dainese.
And we have the Cadel Evans Great Ocean race winner as well in the team, I think. Wasn't that Meyerhofer?
That was Meyerhofer. Well, what do you want me to say about him? He, besides that Cadel Evans Great Ocean road race, he or did not finish or finished somewhere in the back.
It's a difficult team, as it often is at Team DSM. There is a Belgian in there, Han van Oeken. He showed himself in the past year as a decent breakaway rider for the bigger mountains. He got close. I think he got close once in a gravel stage at Giro d'Italia, if I recall correctly.
It's possible.
Exactly, he was 2 times third in the stage in 21 and 20.
Was that in the time he was still riding for the mighty Lotto team?
Yeah, exactly. It's his first year at Team DSM.
Didn't notice him yet this season.
Maybe you will at Giro d'Italia. There are 3 teams left.
What do you expect from Dainese?
Yeah, I think he got out of Tour de Romandie, so I don't know what to expect of him. I think a sprint stage win will be hard.
Is he the second fastest sprinter besides after Gaviria?
No.
That's it.
Okay. Team Jaiko Alula. Michael Matthews is confirmed. Alessandro De
He's
Marchi.
gonna be 2 times second. Like that.
So Matthews, De Marchi, Eddie Dunbar, Michael Hepburn, Lucas Pustelberger, Callum Scottson, Campbell Stewart, and Filippo Zanna. A lot of freedom as well here.
Yeah.
You mentioned Matthews for second places, but you never know. Do you think the type of rider Matthews is will be able to compete for the points classification?
He is amongst the favorites for that classifications together with Pedersen.
Or are there too many mountains?
Matthews is someone who can survive quite a bit of hilly terrain, but will the points classification be won by a fast guy or will it be by...
Yeah, well, that's the question.
Well, if we have to believe Soudal-QuickStep, they will give a lot of freedom to the break, so that will open up points for others, and it will not be for Roglic or Evenepoel. So if it will go like that, then it will be a fast man who takes that classification.
Do you remember who won it last year?
Demar.
Who was second?
Matthews.
Gaviria was second, and Mark Cavendish was third last year. And in 2021, the points classification was won by Peter Sagan before Davide Cimolai, your man. Gaviria once again third there.
So Gaviria might be a good pick for the points classification. All right, people, don't put money on it, but
don't bet. We've talked about sprints, but they have some people who are able to survive a mountain as well. I think Filippo Zanna, for instance, Eddie Dunbar.
I'm quite a fan of Zanna. I don't know why. I like that Italian jersey he's wearing. But his season was quite mediocre as well. But once the Giro starts, it's a new chapter in the season. So even when you have the first 3 months were quite rubbish.
So you really believe that a breakaway rider can still grow into the race?
Yeah, it's 3 weeks. You're on your bike 3 weeks straight, day after day after day. So when you have a decent form, when your base level is good, you didn't have illness or injuries, you can grow within that stages and you can get something in that second week, third week. Like I said earlier, you need to have a bit of luck as well to be in the right move, to follow the right move. But like Zanna, who is Italian, is Giro d'Italia, those guys can always do a little bit more when they have the legs. De Marchi, he's always there in Giro d'Italia, but will he be there now?
Are you an Eddie Dunbar believer?
What do I need to believe about Eddie Dunbar? If it's general classification hopes, no.
No, but yeah, the guy left Ineos last winter, and then there was some hope about him being able to win 1 week races, I think. Are you a believer for stage wins?
He can win a stage. If you finish 9th in the Tour de Romandie, in the Tion stage, if you finish 9th there, it's not bad.
What's kind of surprising is the fact that Dunbar is 26 years old, and take a guess how many Grand Tours he's done already. You see it there, I think.
I just saw it one.
One in 2019, of course. That's not really surprising, knowing that he was at Ineos Grenadiers.
He was in the Ineos team, and that team was always very strong. It was even Sky in 2019. But that was the year Bernal won.
Yeah, he was 22nd there.
He was pure domestique there. But
And he ended up third in the Pinerolo stage.
he's a good guy, but he needs a bit of luck to battle for a win.
So, jokes aside, is Michael Matthews their best take for a win?
Yeah, I think so. He is. He always proved to be on a very good level. He will be ready, and yeah, he's their best hope for a win and maybe the points classification at the end.
The penultimate team in this Giro d'Italia preview is Trek Segafredo, that lost its leader Giulio Ciccone due to COVID. He won't be recovered right in time. So the 8 names for the American team are Emmanuel Gebreselassie, Dan Hole, Alex Kirsch, Bauke Mollema, Mats Pedersen, Tom Squeens, Nathaniel Tesfacion en Otto Vergaarde. Nathaniel Tesfacion, we're both pretty hyped about him in the last years. He's now at Trek Segafredo. Last year he was still at Droonhopper.
Yep. He had a decent season with a couple of good results, a couple of good stages. It's his third Grand Tour, third time Giro. And if I recall correctly, he showed himself in every Giro he started. His best result in 2021 was 8th. And
yeah, he did, but maybe that's the problem. He shows himself a lot, and we kind of overestimated him. Yeah, we did. He didn't take a win.
Only 21 the guys take a win in the Grand Tour.
He's only 23 years old, so that's an advantage for him. There's still room to improve.
He's young. There isn't a GC leader to protect with the did not start of Ciccone.
Yeah.
He probably needs to work a bit for Pedersen in sprint stages and medium mountain stages to maybe get that point classification in the back. But he will get freedom in mountain stages, and he has a kick on him, but only problem for him is positioning and getting the right effort in at the right moment.
Talking about Mats Pedersen, who are the riders in support of him in the kind of flatter stages? That must be Dan Hole, Alex Kirsch. 2 men for him, Otto Vergaarde, 3 men for him.
This probably is the tallest team starting in the Giro. If you can sit in the draft of Hole and Kirsch, you're just freewheeling till the lane, I think.
Yeah, that's right. They're definitely the tallest team since our French guy isn't there.
Where is King Kenny when we need him?
Kenny really solved it. But they have a nice amount of interesting riders for mountain stages, medium mountain stages, Mollema, but also Tom Squeens. He's able to survive a medium mountain and then, maybe sprint for the win, for a nice podium spot.
It's the first time he participates in the Giro.
Mm-hmm.
He rode Tour de France 5 consecutive times from 2018 till 2022.
And 3 times he ended up in a stage top 10. Was second at a stage in Tour de France of 2020. So don't be surprised if he gets close, but winning is always difficult.
So difficult to win for a lot of riders in this belt, and a lot of riders have the capabilities to be in a winning position, but to eventually win is something else. Like I said, you don't only need the legs, but also the right mindset and luck, a bit of luck. I know there is one team left, but we see a lot of teams bringing stage hunters with them. And because they know it will probably be a fight between Roglic and Evenepoel for the general classification. But that doesn't make it easier for stage hunter, because a lot of them will want to be in that break, in that stage. But if the half of the peloton wants to be in the break, there is no breakaway. There will be no breakaway. So this might be a problem for stage hunter in this year's Giro, that there are a lot of teams who are not having a overall leader, a general classification leader, and we just get every morning around the table.
Yeah, so you mean that Soudal-QuickStep and Jumbo-Visma won't allow too big of a group?
Yeah, because if there are 20, 25 men going in front, there's always someone who's 15, 16 in general classification. Yes, it's 12 minutes, but it's not that you can give them full free freedom, and then there is a team who's in 9th or 8th and just, oh no, she's in the break, we're gonna ride after that. We saw it multiple times. It's even sometimes a punishment for the team, like a wildcard team who is not in the break. Sometimes the DS just says you're gonna ride at the front of the bench for 1 hour because you're not in the break. But that's not good for stage hunting as well, because if those guys only get 3 or 4 minutes, Jumbo and Quickstep will eventually start waiting to make it hard for one or the other, and then yeah.
All right. Final team. UAE Team Emirates, and team hasn't been confirmed yet, so it's still provisional. But the names are João Almeida, Pascal Ackermann, Alessandro Covi, Davide Formolo, Ryan Gibbons, Brendan McNulty, Diego Ulissi, and Jay Vine.
Good team. Very good team.
Exactly. But do you think Almeida is the big leader, right?
Yes. Finishing 3rd or 2nd in Basque Country.
Do you think he's a rider that needs a lot of domestiques?
No, because he likes to drop at the start of a climb, and then
He's a very smart climber.
he's pacing himself very strong.
If he feels the group is going too fast for me, he drops, finds his own pace, and most of the times he still catches a lot of riders in front of him.
And he gets smart and
Okay. Besides Almeida, we also have McNulty and Jay Vine. Jay Vine, of whom we thought he could have been able to go for GC a couple of months ago, but that doesn't seem to be the case
his last
at this
race
point.
was the 22nd of February,
That was his last race.
where he did not start in the UAE Tour. He had some health issues and troubles. I think he even crashed. No, he didn't, because it was a team time trial before that. He became ill or something, and he just restarts his season in a 3-week stage race. He can surprise us. We know if he's in a top shape, he can climb very well. He can climb with the best.
He has the power numbers of
He has the power
a good
number,
GC
but
rider.
a good GC rider, but we should not expect too much from him, certainly after the troubles he had this season. I hope I'm wrong.
Do you expect him to have the same role as Lennart Kemna in this Giro?
But if I see it like this, his last race was the 21st of February. He will need that first week to get into that racing rhythm, and then see if Almeida needs him for the overall classification, general classification. He will help, and he will get into the break in the 3rd week. I'm sure of that, if he finds his legs.
And then there's Brendan McNulty.
Yeah, UAE uses him a bit wrong. He should have started in Liège, because he might be a rider who performs good in Liège as well. He finished 7th in the general classification Basque Country as a domestique for Almeida. I don't recall a lot of that stage race, but I assume when you finish 2nd after you domestique for your leader, you have quite some good legs. Although
Do you think it's possible for them to have 2 riders in the final GC top 10?
McNulty might not get in that top 10, and Vine...
Maybe I should ask the question differently. Do you think McNulty will ride apart from Almeida, or do you think he will be in support of him?
I hope UAE rides a bit more cleverly, looking at team strategy-wise. They have sometimes failed a bit without Pogacar in the team. it doesn't work out always that well. They don't work for each other every time. But right now they have a strong team, a good mix of riders who can ride on the hilly terrain, then Akkerman who can go for it at the flat stages, and together with Gibbons, and then a McNulty, an Elisi, a Fine, a Formolo, a Covey. That's a very strong team. And if Almeida doesn't do it and has a bad day, then they can go stage hunting as well. And if those guys are in the break, they are amongst the favorites to win that stage.
One more name we need to discuss. Pascal Akkerman.
Pascal Akkerman. He had a bad Eschborn-Frankfurt yesterday, the 1st of May. He is having...
2-time stage winner at Giro d'Italia in 2019, and he won that year the points classification as well. Is he a contender for that jersey?
No.
Who's better?
Gaviria? Pedersen?
Matthews? Cavendish?
I put Akkerman on the same level as Cavendish when we look at the chances of the points classification.
Yeah.
Cavendish is faster at the line. Please don't lynch me after this recording. But to get that point classification, he's on the same level as Cavendish, in my opinion.
All right. Anything to add about this final team in this Giro d'Italia preview?
No, it's a strong team. Not a lot of people talk about UAE. It's one of the first times they can go towards a Grand Tour without all the media pressure there is. If Pogacar is at the start, everybody is hyped. It's normal. But right now they can just grow into the race. Everybody is looking at Jumbo and Soudal, and they can be a surprise together with Ineos.
Do you feel ready now for those 3 weeks?
I feel ready. Certainly after talking 1 hour and 47 minutes about the squads of this year's Giro.
Is your girlfriend ready?
I'm gonna ask her when I'm going home.
All right. To conclude, I need 2 names from you. I already asked the audience to put it in the comments who they think will win the Giro and who will be third. So you can still do that. Some name dropping in the comments. Yves, it's your turn now. Who is going to win this Giro d'Italia?
Primoz Roglic.
Who will be third?
Tao Gegenhardt.
Right. I'm glad that was a different name.
I'm gonna bounce back the ball to you.
I also think Roglic is going to win it, but I think João Almeida will be third.
Oof. Sexy.
So we have a battle for third place.
Right.
Can we agree that Evenepoel is second then?
We can agree that Evenepoel will be second. Let's hope.
Who do you hope will win?
Who do you hope will win?
You're not kind of a Roglic fan, but you also don't like...
But to be honest, I hope we have a good fight without mechanicals, without bad luck, and that Roglic and Evenepoel can fight it out between them two till...
You're missing your buddies, right? Egan Bernal, Mikel Landa.
It's quite a sad Giro for me, looking at my favorite riders, but I think we will see a very good Giro. It has everything to be like that. A good parcours, certainly the third week, and a duel we all have been waiting for the last couple of weeks.
All right, that's it for this Giro d'Italia preview. That's it for this longest episode of Domestique Cycling Podcast so far. To those of you who survived those 1 hour and 50 minutes, respect. I hope you don't hate us by now. But we'll be back. I think the plan is to record an episode on every rest day, to have a 1 week roundup of what's happening at Giro d'Italia, and then have a bigger review, I think, at the end of the first Grand Tour of the season. So, see you in a week.
See you.
Ciao.
I've got the spots, the sickness. There's the twins in my brain.